morning, everybody. This is Pastor Bonnie, and we are going to be doing a reading from my book, Angelic Encounters, Enlisting Help from Heaven. This is going to be chapter 3. I'm just going to break these into segments, and I've been reading one chapter a day for you. These are true, authentic encounters that I personally experienced with angels, and it's also my life story kind of woven in so that you could see how the angels are at work. And this one talks about how God spared me from a really dangerous situation, and he does that for you too. So I hope you can grab a cup of coffee, sit back and relax, and just let the Lord speak to your heart this morning. Excuse me. So this one is Angelic Encounters, Enlisting Help from Heaven, Chapter 3, Spared from Danger. If you say, "The Lord is my refuge," and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you, no disaster will come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. Psalm 91, 9 through 11. We were living in Little Rock, Arkansas at the time. My eldest son, Dan, was 3, and his brother, Josh, was 2. I was working part-time in the evenings as a cashier, so I could be a stay-at-home mom during the day. One night, around 3 o'clock in the morning, one of the boys woke up crying. As I went to step out of bed, I became aware of a man standing beside my bed. He was dressed in a royal blue choir robe with his hands folded in front of him. He had short, dark, curly hair and an olive complexion, and he looked as if he was waiting to tell me something. Terrified and thinking there was a robber in the room, I let out a piercing scream that woke my husband. "Turn the light on," I screamed. As the light flicked on and flooded the room, I watched as he floated up through the ceiling. A few weeks later, while at work, my manager approached me and asked for a ride home. For some reason, this made me feel uneasy. I had a hunch, a warning in the pit of my stomach, but I had worked with this man for several weeks and had no real reason not to trust him. So I let my logic overrule my intuition and agreed. As soon as he jumped in the car, he started describing in graphic detail how he was going to rape me. He said he had been planning to do it for weeks. He forced me to drive to an abandoned building and pull up around the back. Suddenly, I felt a strong, protective presence surrounding the car and this indescribable peace. I started talking to the man. I don't recall what I said, but amazingly, he didn't touch me. Instead, he ordered me to drive back to the job site. Once there, he quickly got out of the car, saying, "I don't know how you talked me out of that," and hurried away. He hadn't harmed me in any way. I was shaken after the incident, but thankfully safe and sound. Later, we discovered he had done the same thing to several women at work, and they ultimately fired him. I realized afterward I must have seen my guardian angel, and that was the presence I had felt around the car. There are incidents recorded in the Bible of angels appearing to people. One such incident is recorded in Luke. Then an angel of the Lord appeared to him standing at the right side of the altar of incense. When Zacharias saw him, he was startled and was gripped with fear. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zachariah. Your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you are to call him John. He will be a joy and delight to you, and many will rejoice because of his birth, for he will be great in the sight of the Lord. He is never to take wine or other fermented drink, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit even before he is born. He will bring back many of the people of Israel to the Lord their God, and he will go on before the Lord in the spirit and power of Elijah to turn the hearts of the parents to their children and the disobedient to the wisdom of the righteous, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord." Luke 1:11 through 17. There are several interesting facts we can gather from this passage of Scripture. We see that just like me, the angel appeared out of nowhere, and Zechariah's immediate reaction was to be startled and gripped with fear. I can tell you from my own experiences that I never was sure they existed. I have never looked for them, and I am not thinking about them when they appear. I have never asked God to let me see one. The times when I have seen them, they are the farthest thing from my mind. The angel came with a message for Zechariah not to fear, that his prayers had been heard for a son, and he assures him that even though he and his wife Elizabeth are old, this child is to be a joy and delight to them. He gives him clear instructions about how to raise him and what his life is to mean to many people, including the coming Messiah. The passage goes on, and Zechariah, after getting over his fright, is still in disbelief. Even though the angel is still standing there in front of him, he can hardly believe what he has been told and tries to reason with the angel about his age. Zechariah asked the angel, "How can I be sure of this? I am an old man, and my wife is well along in years." The angel said to him, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and to tell you this good news. And now you will be silent and not able to speak until the day this happens, because you did not believe my words, which will come true at their appointed time." Luke 1:18-20. The angel simply tells him who he is, that he stands in the presence of God, and what his purpose and message is. He then lets them know that because of his doubt, he will be silent until his words come true at their appointed time. I have had experiences where I have heard their voices and they deliver their message in the same unemotional manner. The times I have seen them have been for very specific purposes, just like this one was. Continuing in verse 57 of Luke chapter 1. When it was time for Elizabeth to have her baby, she gave birth to a son. Her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown her great mercy, and they shared her joy. On the 8th day they came to circumcise the child, and they were going to name him after his father Zechariah. But his mother spoke up and said, "No, he is to be called John." They said to her, "There is no one among your relatives who has that name." Then they made signs to his father to find out what he would like to name the child. He asked for a writing tablet, and to everyone's astonishment, he wrote, "His name is John." Immediately his mouth was opened and his tongue was set free, and he began to speak, praising God. Luke 1:57-64. We can see by this passage that Zechariah was not able to speak for at least the 9 months gestation, and perhaps for a few months before that, while they waited for Elizabeth to conceive and become pregnant. It was only when he was obedient to name the child John that his tongue was loosed and he began to speak, praising God. It would be several more years before I would actually see another angel, but in the meantime I heard their voices, saw into the spiritual realm, and have had many amazing experiences that would define the course of my life and change it forever. Before I tell you about the other amazing experiences, there is one more encounter that I would like to mention in this chapter, because it was another time that I was spared from danger and I didn't realize it until after the fact. I had decided to do an errand that morning, and the seatbelt was broken in the back seat of the car. This was before putting children in car seats, and under the seatbelt and car seats were the law of the land. I had my daughter Sarah with me, who at the time was 4 years old. I was going to go on to the errand without putting her under the seatbelt that day, just like always, but I had this inner whisper to buckle her in. Not thinking much about it, I reached across and had to pull the seatbelt that was working across the seat. Not even 15 minutes into the drive, I hydroplaned, and the accelerator went all the way to the floor. The car was completely out of my control. Terrified, I saw the back of the car in front of me, and unable to stop, I decided to go around the left side of it. That caused my car to go off the road. Everything went in slow motion, and I was able to navigate not hitting a house and a tree. But when I saw a stone wall looming, I knew there was not going to be any way not to hit it head on. I truly did not know in that instant if I was going to live or die. I hit the stone wall, and the force of it threw the car straight up into the air and over the other side. I was stunned to realize I had not been hurt, especially since I was not belted in. I did not hit the steering wheel either, and my daughter was still safely buckled in. The car was totaled, but we both walked away completely unharmed. I can't help but wonder how many times have angels kept me safe and I was never aware of it. How many times have they spared you from danger? Think about some times in your own life and ask the Lord to show you. I promise you He will. So that concludes our reading for today. And again, the book is Angelic Encounters, Enlisting Help from Heaven. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on my website, which is Dragonfly Corners at Etsy.com. And I wanted to put this on here as a gift for you today. And I feel like the Lord will draw the people He wants to hear this. And just be encouraged. He has spared you from danger too. And I do want to encourage you, listen to the whisper on the inside. That's the Lord talking to you. He'll give you direction. He'll give you insight. He'll show you things. He'll keep you safe if you listen. And I just want to say, for those of you who are new to the channel, I'm an ordained minister, so you can email me anytime with prayer requests. My email address is angelcare6@yahoo.com. You're welcome to leave comments in the description box. You don't have to put specifically what's going on, just to pray. But I want to thank you for spending this time. It's always a joy. I hope you have a blessed day. God bless.